over a crawl space. So Joe's stretching a dry line tightly across the building, from girder pocket to girder pocket. Then he uses a scrap of girder material on top of the pier block, and he measures the length of each post. He marks that length on the pier, and I write it down on a cutting list. If you're supporting larger joists over a full basement, you'll find more information later on in the tape and, of course, in the book. With this cutting list, I can cut the treated 4x4s to length. One of the most efficient tools we have for cutting posts is a radial arm saw, but we don't have one on this job. So we'll be showing you several other tools. Here I mark the length on each post, and then I cross it off my cutting list. Here's another place I don't have to use a square to make a square cut. Just line that front edge of the saw up with a 4x4 and make your cut. There are other saws you can use to cut this 4x material. Here's one. It's a circular saw with a chainsaw attachment. It's got a guard here in the back, but it doesn't have one in the front. So when you're using this saw, set a square on the material, grab it with both hands, and use it in a safe manner. And here's another saw we use to cut heavier stock. We call it a beam saw. And then, if you have a power outage, there's no electricity left in the world, and your electric generator won't work, grab the old handsaw and go for it. And 3 days later, you'll be through this 4x4. Well, we've got all our posts scattered, and we're ready to nail them on top of our piers. Now this one here is in good shape. The post itself is cut square, and the pier is set in good and level. Now let me tell you, I've been on a lot of jobs where this just wasn't the case. A lot of times these piers get poured out of level, and what happens is that makes the post out of plumb. Now, to compensate for that, you may have to cut this post out of square a little bit. So when you're finished, the post will set square on that pier and give good solid support to the girder up above. Now that we've got all these posts cut, we have to toe nail them to the piers using 4/8 pennies, 2 in from each side. You could also use 3/16 instead. And we just center them on the blocks by eye. Again, these posts are treated, but check the plans in the code to see if they're required in your area. The next thing we do is scatter and nail all the girders in place. Where the girders fit into their pockets, we cut a block of treated wood to bring them up flush with the sill, and then we nail them off. Notice that here in the crawl space, these girders are 6 feet on center. Over a full basement, we support larger joists by a girder or a wall in the middle. We nail the girders securely to the post with 3/16 penny nails. Now, in some areas, the code may require a plywood gusset or even a metal connector at this joint. I want to show you something that happens out on the job. These piers, they're poured in line, but let's face it, sometimes they're not done as well. So what happens is, when this post is put in the middle of the pier, you don't have full bearing under this girder. It looks something like this. So what we do is we nail both ends, and then later on we can put in these posts and line them up like they ought to be. So it has full bearing underneath this girder. Then we can nail it down. Another thing is that when these pier posts are 3 foot or longer, you have to nail a brace on them. That's what the code wants. Well, it's obvious that this post is only about, what, 20 inches long? But this is the way the brace nails on. Now, beams aren't always perfect. take a look at this one. It's twisted. We want it to set flat down on that girder post. Let's show you how we do that. When a girder's as twisted as this one is, I just make a cut mid-span right over a post. That way the twist is taken up by two pieces rather than one. That's the way we want it. Well, we just have a few more middle girders to place. And to do that, we have to cut off some of the ends of the girders we've run in. We wait to cut them to length until after they're all nailed down, so we don't have to use a tape measure. Also, when we nailed them down, we made sure our nails were off to one side so the blade wouldn't hit a nail. You'll note that we're cutting to fit this building. We seldom have to use a tape measure. Here at the joints, we nail each girder to the post with 2/16, and then we join the splice with 3 more. Now with the girders nailed in place, Joe's taken a moment to sight across the top and make sure everything's flush.